you, Aisha. And yet, another Mary. We are here to talk about history and the fall of Oyo Empire.
Aisha, can you recollect what Eda taught us then in history?
Yes, I can still remember.
Are you sure? You like you're in dollars.
I can still remember. Sit back, let's not just take over.
Dear viewers, my name is Adi Agbondogatula. I am from Kayabda Comprehensive College, Eleviba Annex. I am here to talk about the historiography, concept of history, why do we study history, and the sources of history. I would like to start with the definition of history. According to layman definition, history is defined as the account of past events. It is the study and analysis of the past. It can also be defined as the experience of a specific person or thing. Before one could give accurate definition of history, there are three main things which must be stated. At least one of these three must be mentioned, which are the present, past, and the future. So I would like to define history according to some great historians. According to R.G. Collingwood, he defined history in 1946 as the relief of the past into one's mind. According to E.H. Cowes, he defined history as an unending dialogue between the present and the past. According to Aristotle, he defined history as an unchanging account of the past. So I would like to look to the reasons why we study history. We need to study history in order to promote future historians. We need to study history in order to enable the next generation know about themselves and their environment in historical concepts. We need to study history in order to search for the truth. Now that we all now understand the definition of history and why we study history, I would like to move to the sources of history. We learnt most of our history books in the past few years by historians. The facts about what they publish can be found in the original documents and other materials which serves as the primary source of history. Example like video, objects, and pictures. Textbooks are generally referred to as the secondary source of history because they rely on the primary source. It is very difficult to determine the history of an illiterate people, but there are ways out of the difficulties. Firstly, we can make use of oral tradition. What is an oral tradition? An oral tradition is the account of a nation or tribe through the word of mouth that is passed from one generation to another. This source has some errors or source of exaggeration, so it is not reliable. Secondly, we can make use of archaeological excavation, in which we will conduct an archaeological evidence. For example, no culture was discovered based on the archaeological evidence found in the Jos Plateau, and we can know the exact year in which that archaeological evidence is found through radiocarbon dating. What is radiocarbon dating? This is a scientific method of determining the age of an inorganic material as old as 6,000 years ago. This technique was first discovered in the University of Chicago by Willard Libby in the 1960s. It was firstly based on the decade of carbon-14 isotope. Take for instance, I can determine the age in which this paper has been used through radiocarbon dating. So I think we all now understand what we mean by history, why we study history and sources of history. So I would like to call on my fellow colleagues to take over from where I stopped. Thank you.
I hope you know the meaning of dating and sources of history. I would like to expatiate more on the importance of dating in history. What exactly is dating? Dating simply refers to as a time when an event occurs. Dating is very important in history. One main feature of history is dating. Dating in history helps to know that one event happens before another. Dating, this is why historians narrate or document or record historical events chronologically. Date marks period in history, that is the period between the starting and ending of a particular historical event. For example, the period of the French Revolution, which was between 1789 to 1799. The period of the First World War was between 1914 to 1918. The period of the Second World War was between 1939 to 1945. The period of colonial rule in Nigeria was between 1900 to 1960, while the period of Nigerian Civil War was between 1967 to 1970 and so on. They serve as a milestone in history. It is important for recognizing a particular event at a particular time. Dates, historians use dates for the purpose of signifying eras in which a particular event occurs. Dates are recorded by different people and cultures starting at different times. For example, the Christian Europeans adopted the convention of recording dates by whether the event occurred before or after the year Jesus Christ was born. The dating system is not only used by the historians, but also by the world today. The dating system comprises BC and AD. While BC means before Christ, AD refers to Anno Domini. Both BC and AD are used to label or number years in the Julian and Gregorian calendars. There are two types of dating in history. There are relative dating and absolute dating. What is relative dating? Relative dating is the relative science of order of events. It does not necessarily determine the absolute age or estimated age, while absolute dating provides a numerical age, which places events in order not to measure the age between the events. The primary method of absolute dating is radiocarbon dating. Radiocarbon dating is also known as carbon-14 dating. It is a scientific method used to determine the age of an inorganic material as old as 60,000 years ago. It was first developed in the University of Chicago by Willard Libby. Thank you for listening to me. I really appreciate your time. God bless you.
Hope you have understand what we mean by history, source of history, dating, how dating is important in history, and I would like to take you further by starting with the theories of Yoruba origin. The Yoruba are the major ethnic group in Nigeria. They mainly inhabit the southwest geopolitical zone of Nigeria. They are also found in some parts of Kwara and Kogi State of north-central geopolitical zone of Nigeria. Outside Nigeria, Yoruba are found in Togo, Benin Republic, Brazil, and so on. There are different theories of Yoruba origin. Firstly, there was the Oduduwa legend. This theory explains the prior to the coming of Oduduwa. There was the existence of people in different parts of Yoruba land. Firstly, there was the existence of people in different parts of Yoruba land. This theory explains the prior to the coming of Oduduwa. The Oduduwa sent out his son to all other parts of Yoruba land. Having settled at Ile-Ife, Yoruba sent out his son to fought other parts of Yoruba land and kingdom. Another theory was traced to Obatala, also known as Orisala, who was said to create the earth and men. This messenger of God was said to have get drunk on his way to the earth. Thus, his responsibility of creating the whole world in Ile-Ife was taken over by Oduduwa. In spite of all these divided theories of Yoruba origin, there are major facts that remain undisputable about the Yoruba people. Firstly, there exists in Yoruba land the Oduduwa society. In other words, the origin of people in different Yoruba land was not traced to Oduduwa. Secondly, the dynasty of people in Yoruba land was not traced to Oduduwa. Beginning from Ile-Ife, where Oduduwa settled, to other parts of Yoruba land, where he sent out his son to establish kingdom, the emergence of dynasty was traced to Oduduwa. By this development, Oduduwa has generally been referred to as the cradle of Yoruba civilization or race. It was from Ile-Ife that civilization spread to other parts of Yoruba land. Thus, the emergence of political governance in all different parts of Yoruba land was traced to Ile-Ife. Other civilization from Ile-Ife was culture and custom, religious belief, festival, and so on. Thank you, my listener. I think you'll be able to understand what I've been saying.
I hope you have understand the origin of Yoruba land. I'm here to bring you the major civil war in the 19th century. These are Ogun War of 1821, Egba Ìjà-Omi War, Ìbàdàn and Ìjàyè War, Èkìtì Parapọ̀ War. The Ogun War of 1821. The Ogun War of 1821 was the first major war which broke out in Yoruba land, and this contributed largely to the collapse of old Oyo Empire. The Ogun War of 1821 began as an economic war, which Akoko was attacked by Owu over the struggles of control of the market town. This action of Owu was challenged by Ile-Ife, and we saw it as a violation and constitution and tradition. Ijebu came into the support of Ile-Ife in the war, and later Oyo warriors joined the war. The combination force of Oyo, Ile-Ife, and Egba attacked Owu territory and support Owu.
I think you have understand is Ekiti Parapo. Ekiti Parapo in 1871 to 1893. Ekiti Parapo was the longest war that broke out in Yoruba land in 19th century. The war lasted for almost 16 years, and the outbreak of the war was caused by the expansion of Ibadan after the victory over Ijaye in 1877. Ibadan in the same year attacked Egba and later Ijebu. The war spread to the eastern Yoruba land in 1878. Ibadan in the year Egba, Ekiti, Akoko and Igomina, who have suffered from the oppressive rule of Ibadan. There was a state and the war get to an end through the intervention of the British in 1893.
Dear admitted students, I want you to bear it in mind that the primary focus of Career Builder Comprehensive College Osogbo is education built on teaching and inculcation of good character. When a pupil is granted full admission into the college, it is assumed that he or she has a serious purpose and aspiration towards school and intellectual development. On this note, the college believes that such a pupil agrees to conduct himself or herself in accordance with laid down rules and regulations of the college and should be ready to take full wrath of his or her misconduct. No offense is committed in any environment not governed by law. To guide and regulate students' behavior and conduct in school and while in school uniform, the management of the college has drawn up regulation which the college hopes would enjoy staff, parents and students' support and cooperation. The motto of the school is knowledge and culture. I have no doubt, therefore, that your time with us will be enjoyable as it shall be academically rewarding. The voice you are listening to is the voice of Adeabu Suraj Ademola, the proprietor of Career Builder Comprehensive College, Osogbo. Congratulations.
The meaning of history and the importance of dating, and also the theories of Yoruba origin. My name is Olatojo Bolua. I would like to take you further into the political situation of Old Oyo Empire. In the 19th century, Yoruba land witnessed major political crisis that led to the collapse of Old Oyo Empire. Thus, the 19th century has been described as a century of political revolution of Yoruba land with the fall of Old Oyo Empire. There was an outbreak of major civil war in Yoruba land, notably the Owu War, the Egba-Dahomey War, and Ekiti Parapo War, or Kiriji War, Jalumi or Ikiran Battle. The empire was a major empire founded by Oramiyan. The empire, which had its new headquarters at Oyo-Ile, derived its strength and growth from the army and trade with its neighbors, notably Asante and Dahomey. Also, the geographical location of the empire, effective and efficient political administration, and the possession of able leadership contributed immensely to the rise and growth of the empire. The empire attained its greatest power and extent in the 17th-18th century during the reign of Oba Alaafin Abiodun, 1774 to 1789. At its zenith, the empire covered almost half of the Yoruba land, with its former headquarters located at Katunga. However, the empire, which are said to be enjoying considerable growth and expansion, began to experience decline by the second half of the 18th century. By the beginning of the 19th century, although the Oyo Empire started to decline as a result of these factors, inappropriate political formula to change the automatic tendencies of the ruling class, failure to find an ideology to unite the masses, revolt, pressure especially from northern neighbors, and loss of commercial supremacy. I would like to hand over to my colleague to expatiate on the factors that led to the collapse of Old Oyo Empire. Thank you.
My name is Valerie Fatia. I am here to enumerate on the factors which led to the collapse of Old Oyo Empire. The factors which led to the collapse of Old Oyo Empire can be categorized into two, namely internal factors and external factors. Internal factors. Although the collapse of Old Oyo Empire began in the second half of the 18th century, it's eventually in the 19th century. The internal factors are as follows. The effect of the offset of balance of power. There was offset of balance of power between the Alaafin, Basharun, and Oyomeji. For instance, Basharunga was a very powerful Basharun who seized more power and was very supreme to control. And as a result of this, it became practically impossible for other organs of government
to perform their imperial duties effectively. Ghana became autocratic and powerful, which led to major internal political crisis and weakened the central government of Odo Empire for almost 20 years. Although Alaafin Abiodun attempted to restore the balance of power, but the crisis which Ghana caused had affected the stability of the empire. Secondly, the weakness of the army. The weakness of the army is another internal factor which led to the collapse of Odo Empire. The army, which was strong, contributed strongly to the rise and growth of the empire, but began to weaken in the second half of the 18th century. For instance, this army were defeated by Bogu in 1783 and Nupe in 1791. The effect of this defeat made them to lose where they are getting supply of horses and slaves. Another factor is the crisis of constitution. The crisis of constitution is another internal factor which led to the collapse of Odo Empire. This factor began during the reign of Oba Alaafin Awole. Oba Alaafin Awole ordered Afonja, the Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò, to attack, and a strong military base was finally established in Odo Empire between 1823 to 1835. During this time, series of wars were lodged against Odo Empire, such as Ogele War, Igbamigba War, and Eleduwe War, and Odo Empire was finally destroyed. And the killing of Alaafin by Abdulsalam, the son of Malam Alimi, led to the destruction of headquarters of Oyo.
I think you all have understand the political situation of Odo Empire. How Odo Empire reached its peak and now is fall. Thanks for viewing.
The main source of history, the importance of history, and the fall of Odo Empire. We really appreciate Mr. Suraj Adiagbo, the proprietor of the school, and the proprietress, and all our teachers. May God bless you for your efforts over us, and to all our parents, we thank you. We really appreciate all your efforts.